this is Special Ed. You listen to Two in the Stink podcast. Yay! Yay! I like three in my stink.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Two in the Stink. We are here with Chris Raab, a.k.a. Raab himself.
Yo, that's hilarious. I didn't know it was called that.
What? Two in the Stink?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, dude.
Two
Welcome.
in the Stink, dude.
Two in the Stink, yeah. We figured, you know, it's the perfect name. There's two of us, we stink, and the acronym is TITS.
Yes.
Perfect.
So we tell people, we have people come up to us and, like, at shows, they'll be like, dude, I love tits.
Yes.
It's fucking perfect. Yeah, man.
People like they're like, no, for real though, you guys are great businnmen. That's a great thing you've done.
Yeah.
Marketing genius.
Yeah. Rob's got a degree in marketing.
So what's up, dude? It's I mean, we're happy to have you, dude. You know.
No, I'm happy to be here. That's awesome. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're happy to have you. You know, Raab himself, CKY, Jackass, Viva La Bam. The list goes on.
Yeah,
you're a fucking legend around here, man. It's awesome.
No, that's cool, man. It was good meeting you, that night and seeing you do stand up too.
Yeah, we met at Helium, right?
Yeah,
that was sick. I mean, yeah, I was like, we met at Helium, right? Like, I didn't fucking think about it every day since. No, it was cool because, like, we opened for Casey Rocket, a very good friend of ours, and one of the.
You opened too.
Jim was hosting.
That's how I knew. I was like, you look familiar, but then I was like, wait, fuck. So okay.
Yeah, he wasn't wearing basketball shorts.
I was a little bit different looking then.
Yeah. No, you fucking killed it too. All of you guys that whole night. Like, that was a great show.
I'm glad you had a good time.
From start to finish, just fucking laughing my ass off.
Dude, that's what we like to hear. It's nice when we'll do shows with Casey, and then people will come up after and they'll be like, oh, everybody was funny, because some shows. I've done a couple where it's like,
Yeah.
But no,
it's hit or miss. You never know. Like, it could, and it could be the comedian's having an off night, or the crowd is just not in tune with that style of humor or whatever. There's so many elements, but that night, from the start of you going to end of Casey, honestly, laughed like. In pain, laughing.
Oh, fuck yeah!
So
dude.
it was amazing.
Yeah, we love to hear it, man. I remember we were in the green room, and one of the servers came in the room. He's like, dude, Raab himself was in the crowd, and me and Casey and Jim, we were all like, holy shit, that's awesome. So we were all excited to go on stage.
Oh, that's right. That's cool. Because it was funny when I was walking in, CKY the band was playing on the radio or where, they were playing that music, and I was like, oh, that's rad. And then the dude who was walking us in was like, wait a second. And I was like, he's like, are you Raab? I'm like, yeah. And then it was right while CKY was playing on the thing. It was kind of like, what the hell?
Yeah. Maybe that's what triggered him. He was like, oh, I know who this guy is. The music and you all came together.
Sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just really cool.
Yeah, it was fucking it was overall fun night. I think Casey was a little bit bummed because I was like, isn't it cool we got to meet him? And he was like, well, you did, because I think I was like hogging. I was just talking your ear off. I was pretty fucking hammered, so I probably said a bunch of dumb shit.
No, I didn't notice it like that.
Okay.
I just thought we all,
the way I've been making him feel bad about it is way different. Man, remember that time you ruined Casey's weekend?
Because Casey was equally as excited to see you as I was, and I think I beat him to it. I sprinted out.
Oh, that's funny. I figured because it just seemed like you guys had, because you were doing the meet and greet after. So I saw it a totally different way. Like, oh man, I'm bothering these dudes because they got to go do what they got to do.
Oh no.
And so it was it was good and good fun.
Yeah, dude. I saw I was doing a little bit of rabbit hole on YouTube. I saw you kind of did stand up, or you did like one set or something that's on YouTube. You told more of like a story, right?
Yeah. So my buddy Josh Denny is a comedian.
Where's he from?
He's originally, he was originally from this area, like Philly area, then Minnesota. So he grew up here in Minnesota. Okay. And then is in LA. So he'd been in LA 20 years or whatever he's been in there. But yeah, so he's he is controversial. Yeah.
We wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah. Like any good comedian, but he like hosted a food network show, and then he said some joke on Twitter that got him canceled, and he lost the show.
Oh,
and then
shit.
Whatever, and then and then he's kind of pushed in the other direction. Just went kind of straight at it when they were pissed off about him, saying whatever. He just went even harder. Has some really funny stuff, and I don't know. I always treat comedy as like, can't we all just laugh about this shit? Like, Like, don't take it so goddamn seriously. Like, do you really think these people have hate in their heart? No, they're finding a way to laugh at really difficult, awful things and bringing stuff to light in a comedic way so that we can digest it better. And so I just always kind of saw comedy like that. And wait, what was the original question?
Oh, I said I saw you. It was more of like
yeah,
saw you do
the
you did a set.
So Josh Denny's a buddy of mine, and he hosted like a kind of a comedy show on Fridays or whatever, and it was called Darkest Hour, and it was basically you get up there and kind of talk about the darkest comedy kind of stuff. And and he asked me one time, like, dude, would you ever consider getting up there and doing like stories or something like that? And like Steve-O had gotten up and done that stuff at Comedy Store, and and Pontius and Dave England, a bunch of them had done that stuff, and I just never did it. I was always kind of like nervous about like I will say, like, I kind of am like a student of comedy. I love stand-up comedy so much that I'm intimidated by it and respect what you guys do so much that I kind of felt like it's kind of gross to just think I could get up there and do that, because it's not like that.
That's how everybody starts, man.
Yeah.
You get up there.
Everyone has that exact feeling where it's like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with this.
Yeah.
I could never do it, though. That's exactly how I felt literally the seconds until I started doing it.
Oh, that's cool to hear.
You'll feel that as you're about to step onto the threshold of the stage.
Yeah.
You're still like this, like.
Yeah. So I mean, it is wild, and I just kind of, like I said, had so much respect for it that I don't know if I could do it. And then Josh was like, "Dude," he's like, "You're funny as shit when we're just hanging out and all this, so just come do it."
Yeah.
And then I was like, "All right." And then I thought of like a story and was like, "All right, let me get up there and do this." And I can honestly say I could see why it's so addicting.
Yeah.
Because just getting up there and getting laughs, and then like people were laughing through it, and I was like, oh man, this is amazing. Like, then I started looking at like, okay, what would I need to do to get better at it? And then I started getting like, oh, this is how you get hooked, because then you get into it. And for me, I was lucky too. So Denny is also good buds with Josh Flurhog, and he's another comedian that I'm friends with. Sorry, Mike, closer.
You're good.
And he Josh Flurhog's another comedian that I'm buddies with, and he is Louis Anderson's nephew. So Josh was opening for Louis Anderson down in San Diego, and he was like, dude, come down and go to the show with me. So I went down with him, and then met Louis like before and after the show, and
sick,
and got to hang with him. And Josh was telling him about like, yo, Raab went up on stage and he did this, and then Louis like, and he saw a bit of the clip, and he's like, this is great, and he's like, you just got to keep getting up, keep doing it, and he was like, and he's like, and his like advice to Josh, but also to me when we were talking was like, he's like, the main thing I'll say is slow down.
Yeah.
So just slow down, feel the energy there, allow for the laughs that are happening, and then you kind of can have more control over the interaction between the audience. And like, then started working on me. I'm like, oh man, I would love to, do this. So then then Josh Flurhog was hosting another one, so I went up and did another one. And it was funny because I went and told a different story on the next one.
How many times have you like done it now so far?
Twice.
Just twice? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
So I did it on the next one, and I got like some laughs, but it was weird. It was like I started to see kind of what you guys go through, not to any real, but to see the real reality was the room that I was in the first time I did it was a perfect comedy room.
Yeah.
It was designed for comedy. It was structured just like that.
Low ceilings.
Yeah, and there happened to be a bar in the back where you could get a drink.
Yeah.
But everything is geared towards the stage. And that was the first one with Josh Denny. Then it was like, and it worked out in a lot of laughs and all this good thing. Then the second one we did was more a bar with an area and so you could see how it wasn't like designed for them to just be sitting there, like how Helium is or anything. So you saw like, oh, we're kind of an afterthought to this bar, and it definitely had a different energy, and people weren't paying attention as much. So I'm telling the story, and I'm like, oh man, and in my head you get up there looking like I'm fucking bombing, and
we've been there plenty of times.
Yeah, and I got off the stage, and I said to Flurhog, my buddy, I was like, oh, dude, I fucking bombed. He was like, you didn't bomb, dude. That's not bombing. And I was like, what? And he's like, you got a bunch of laughs. He's like, it was different than the first time because it's a different room, but you got laughs. Bomb is no laughs.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, all right. So I started to see like, okay, damn, that felt like bombing to me. Bombing must really.
Oh, dude, bombing, yeah.
It's just like, oh, like I was in pain just from only like getting a bit. Like 'cause the first time it went so well that it hooked me, and then the second time, and I'll be honest, after that second time, what happened for me? Because I part of my story is I'm an addict, alcoholic, and whatever. I'm in recovery and shit. But
how long have you been in recovery for?
Coming up on 16 years.
Oh, that's fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Nice.
So big part of my story, with Jackass, Viva La Bam, all that stuff, I kind of lived a wild life for a while and then got clean and sober. And but I'm still an addict. So, like, the idea is once I did that second comedy, I was like, in my head, I was like, all right, I either have to go full fucking bore on this, like, I got to get addicted to this and be all about this, or that's when I was like, I'm just going to not, because I could see that I would just want to do it. And the thing is, like, I have a daughter, I have a career in cinematography and all this other stuff. So, like, I was like, well, no, I need to do this thing I've been following, because I've been following, like, filmmaking and TV and
one of the questions I wanted to ask you, but I also want to talk about, like, what you said before we get into that. Like, it's funny when you talk about like bombing. I feel like the longer you do stand up, at least me and Jim's definition for bombing has changed. It's like, if we have like a rough set, if we don't like have like a great set on like one of Casey's shows because it's sold out. If it's the rough set, we're like, dude, I fucking bombed. But like, when you first start out doing stand up and it's like, you're like, oh, it made people laugh. That was fucking awesome. It's just funny. I feel like that definition kind of changes over.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely. I mean, and then when you have like a classic one, that's when it really hits you.
Oh yeah,
like
we've
classic
had
bomb,
like an old school one, like the ones you had when you first started.
Yeah,
like I had a Black History Month show, full room, black people. But here's what happened: it was an ambush show where it was like they didn't really tell everyone there was going to be a fucking stand-up comedy show. They just kind of filed people into the room, and there was a bunch of people celebrating like this old lady's birthday. There was dancing, there was music, there was food. And they cut the music off and said, here's this fucking white guy. And they were so fucking angry. They hated my guts. Everything, it didn't matter what I said.
Right.
Like, even the fact that I was acknowledging all of those things, they were like, yeah, but like fucking like get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, but put the music back on.
Yeah, no, you don't understand. This fucking old lady has a light up sash. Like, you don't understand.
Ambush comedy is kind of its own genre of like, comics who are like trying to make it into like Casey. He doesn't have to worry about that. He's doing sold out clubs across the country. He turns down plenty of shitty gigs. Me and Jim will, for the most part, take just about anything we can get.
Just about anything.
But there's some shows where like you show up, maybe you're making like, $50, $100. You're just doing like a, 10-minute spot and nobody there knows comedy's happening. Like it's ambush comedy. Like we've done restaurants where like people are trying to watch a game and they turn off the TVs and now, okay, make us laugh,
It's like the ninth inning, biggest. Oh, just switch that off and go ahead.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about our dicks.
Monkey, make them laugh. Yeah.
Yep.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
It's really tough. I mean, like there's been times where it's like gone almost okay, but the rest it's so
okay.
bad.
Yeah.
Like,
you have to acknowledge it too. You can't just go up there and
you can't
start.
just be like, I know. Like you basically like, I know, right? Can you fucking believe this is happening? And they're like, no, we can't.
Yeah.
You're just digging out of.
I'm on an apology tour with a microphone. It's fucking awful. Yeah, but those are tough. But that's part of the game. Like now, it's a fun thing that I talk about with him.
Yeah,
and like he's got another fucking awful one. Fucking the day Betty White died, he did a show to a bunch of old people.
Bingo hall. I did a bingo hall. Dude, the night after Betty White died. The night Betty White died. It was like the night or the day after or something. It might have been. It was like New Year's Eve. and I got asked to do a bingo hall. And I would like to think now I would say no to that, but like at the time I was like, oh fuck yeah, I'll go do a bingo hall. There's going to be a ton of people there. It was an ocean of old people. I thought it was like they were having a comedy show at a bingo hall. They were having bingo, and then after that, I had to go up and tell jokes. So like literally a few hundred old people just lost like all their money, and they're pissed. And now I got to go up on stage. It was New Year's, so like I was getting booed, and then when I wasn't getting laughs, I was hearing like the streamers.
Yeah.
It was fucking, that was probably one of the worst bombs I've ever had.
Like if you don't quit after that,
He left
like,
you left out of the fire exit.
Yeah, I left out the fire exit. I swear to God.
Set off the alarm, fuck it.
Well, I asked him, I was like, is this going to go off if I go through here? And he was like, no. And I was like, all right, because I brought my uncle with me, which was even worse, like, because he's seen me do really well, and he's seen me really do, like, that was his worst he's ever seen me do. And we walked out the fire exit, and the funny part was, at the time, I had a joke about Applebee's, and I was like, they're going to love it. They're old as fuck. It's like a 5-minute bit. It bombed the entire time. So I'm trying to do Applebee's jokes. They're booing me. I walk out the emergency exit, and there's a big glowing Applebee's right there. And I was like, this is fucking perfect.
Oh, yeah.
It was, yeah.
That is hilarious.
8 Michelobes.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking drive his uncle home.
We were drinking good in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So they were booing you?
Booing. That was like the only time.
Jesus.
That was, and that's like, that's the only time.
Ruthless.
It's the only time I've ever been booed. Like I've had bombs where it's like people are just like, I don't get it. But that was the only time I've been like actually booed.
That's kind of amazing. I mean, if you're just thinking it's these sweet old grandparents and they're like,
Oh, they fucking hate
fuck
me.
you, kid.
One guy-
love this
You're like, I'm
Applebee's
someone's
shit.
grandkid.
One guy
Like,
pulled his
fuck you.
oxygen mask down and goes, tell a joke. Literally risking his life to heckle me. It was fucking nuts.
That's amazing.
His last breath.
His last breath was
castrate
to
you. Just
talk shit on
verbally
me.
castrate Rob.
It's all good. Most of them are probably dead by now. That was a few years ago.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so you got the last laugh on that one.
Yeah.
Fuck
Yeah,
'em.
Rob coughed into a megaphone. Just killed the whole room.
But so you there was a moment where you thought about like you kind of wanted to like if you're either gonna do it, you're gonna lean all the way
Yeah.
in. But your main focus, it's like film, you said, or
Yeah, like TV and film making stuff. So yeah, it was that point where like I'm either gonna get addicted to this thing and keep doing it and do that, or not. And I think because it's like the reality for me is I make a good living doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So
stand up, starting in stand up, you couldn't think of a
go there, but I knew my addictive personality was like, it's gonna be this or nothing if I'm going here, and I had to weigh that out and kind of be like, all right, that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
You know, have a mouth to feed. So so I had to really think about that. And again, I've been working for so long, kind of building in that world. You know, I obviously grew up shooting and filming and doing all that kind of stuff for CKY videos, and then Jackass, and then Viva La Bam, and all that. But then after that, getting behind the camera and being way more focused on cinematography and you know, all the camera work and then learning to edit and do all that. And at this point now, I you know, kind of do all of those things, and that's what my job is now. And I have a little production company that I do. But I mean, I'm capable of all that skill set. Focus more on camera, but capable of doing all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, depending on the size of the project, hire out and bring in, you know, friends and crew members that'll do the other positions. But
cool.
But yeah, have really put all that effort and energy into that, and so it was an obviously easy choice. I had been focusing on that for so long, and that truly is my love. Like that's what I love to do. That's what I'm passionate about. But could see how comedy, because comedy for me, I'm sure for you guys too, like just naturally forever. It's like memorize every line in every movie, memorize every stand-up there is. Like you always know every line from what's happening. Like you know. For me, George Carlin, love him the most. Like if I had to pick one, it's him. But then everybody for all their different styles and follow along with that. What's the newest thing? And then, like I said, had comedian buddies that would turn me on to like Chris Porter and like people like that that were like not as mainstream, and then you start watching people that are in that world, and then you're like, man, then you're figuring out who the new comedians are, and so super obsessed with that stuff. So that kind of does make a lot of sense, but it was like, I'm gonna keep that as something I love in terms of watching, being a fan of, and all that.
Right.
Not something I want to pursue as a career, and then with the filmmaking stuff is where that's the real career stuff.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I'm sure you still absolutely love what you do, but there's some touch of once it becomes a job, it's a job, and you don't want to say that, but the truth is, once like filmmaking and all that stuff became everything I'm doing and that I'm getting paid for, there are days when I'm like, I feel like being here right now. I'd rather be doing something
we've
else.
got nights like that where we're tired and it's like a show and it's like, well, this
is what you
we got to do it.
Yeah,
you got to do it.
Yeah.
But are there any projects right now you're working on that you're really excited about, or
nothing too crazy. Nothing like passion projects. We keep threatening to do a CKY documentary.
threatening?
Yeah. Like Joe Franz and I talk about it a lot, and we have broken down things we shot, like an interview with Novak and stuff like that. But the truth is, we'd have to get everybody on board. And get everybody
it have to be like an all or nothing type
yeah,
situation.
just everybody interested in wanting to be a part of that. And I think the thought was, we pitched it for a while, and people were interested, and then nothing really took off with it. And so that was more of the passion sort of project thing there. And then the other stuff is more like just kind of the bread and butter stuff that you do for companies. You make them commercials, and then like social media stuff and website stuff. I do a lot of videos for that stuff. So
cool.
That stuff pays the bills.
Yeah.
But then I'm currently kind of just in that weird place of, actually in the last week or so, just talking to some friends about, hey, let's figure out something that we want to try to do that's more like a passion project.
Sick.
That you're psyched on, and so we'll see. Just kind of brainstorming a little bit on that, but for a lot of the time recently, it's been what's paying the bills, and doing that, and that stuff's cool because I do find that, like I said, even though sometimes it feels like a job, like there's always some level of creativity with any of it. Like I have a buddy who owns a law firm, and we shoot videos for them, and you're like, oh, it's law firm videos, but there is cool ways of being creative about it. And hey, like, I get to talk with them and be like, look, we don't want some ambulance chasing, like, you need to call the law offices, blah, blah, blah. It's not like that. It's like, okay, let's try and approach it in a different way. And then you get some creative input on that. And that's been cool with that stuff. And recently I was doing some like sports videos and stuff for my old high school, and did some stuff for the wrestling team. It was cool because I wrestled in high school, and so those are kind of fun, things to do that you're like, all right, like these are cool little like creative ventures like that. So doing that stuff and
you wrestled in high school?
Yeah.
Nice. I heard a story. I heard you got kicked out of school for smearing shit on a locker. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that happen? What?
No, that was funny. So that was public school.
Mm-hmm.
At Westchester East Public School. So I was. It's kind of a longer story. If
go for it, we got time. Yeah, man.
So I was always kind of a troublemaker kid. Love to just get a reaction out of whoever. Like,
you don't say.
Yeah. Like my whole goal, basically in life, in the morning when I woke up, was like, I can't wait to go to school to fuck with people. So like, I feel
like that was most of what made CKY and all that shit great. So. Yeah,
and it was not about like, there's nothing to do with learning. It was like, I want to get there to fuck with whoever. And in the lobby in the morning, there would be these people that we would just mess with, and that was just the goal, was to get a reaction and do that. And so I kind of had built up a lot of suspensions and detentions and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. This is 10th grade year, and got it to a point where the morning of when that happened, we had a meeting with, there was the main principal, 2 vice principals, and then my mom and dad in the meeting, and they were like, okay, if Chris gets in trouble one more time throughout this whole year, he has to go in front of the school board for expulsion.
Yeah.
And
did you take that as a challenge? Or?
Yeah, pretty much. Because it was January, and I was like, I'm not making it. Because it was like they were talking about like a detention, not even like a suspension. They were like, if I do anything, and it was like, there's no way I'm making it to June without fucking around, because this is the whole reason I come to school. And so I go up, and Bam and I were in this weird place too, where and he was too, so it wasn't just me. But like I used to just do dickheaded shit where, like on the school bus, you get on the back of the bus and like just piss in the back seat on the floor and let the piss roll through everybody's like book bags. So like just total asshole shit. And
pretty sick prank.
Yeah, just gross. And so I was like kind of on this sick pissing on things thing, and I would pee on the steps on the one like staircase, so if you piss, it would go over the edge and then hit people that were like down.
Oh wow!
So, now that I'm saying it, I'm like total asshole kid. I think being in recovery, I've shifted some things, made some amends, and do that. But yeah. So at that point, it was that, and I was in health class with Bam, and I came in that day, and he had been out for like some I think like a skating competition or something, and I had been out for suspension, so we had to go into health class and do this makeup quiz, and we go into this separate like classroom that's attached to the classroom that has our teacher in it, but it was me, Bam, and this other like kind of goody two shoes girl. And we're sitting there like doing this makeup quiz, but and it was like the little divider wall was sort of open, and there was this other health teacher that we were in his class, and I didn't really like him for reasons I won't share, but like it was just skeevy shit.
Chinese guy.
So racist, but no, like just skeevy shit that he was doing, and that I had heard and rumors and all these things. So he had this coffee mug sitting on his desk, and I look over and was like, dude, I'm gonna take a shit in his coffee mug. And I just wanted him to come back from lunch and have a shit, like turd hanging out of his coffee mug, like he's just just come sit down at his desk, like what the fuck. There's just
it's like the opposite of leaving an apple on the desk.
Exactly. So that was the idea. And I said that to Bam, and he was like, no way, like you wouldn't do that. I'm like, dude, I'm doing it. So I go to grab the mug, and I take the mug to the bathroom, and I go take a shit in the coffee mug. I come out of the stall, and this kid, Justin, was in the bathroom, and you could see that I was trying to kind of cover the shit, like the piece of shit that's hanging out of the coffee mug, like, with my hand, and he looked at me all funny, like, what the fuck? And so I was like, oh, but he was like a troublemaker kid too, so like I wasn't too worried about him.
I'm like snitching on you or something.
He wasn't gonna say shit, because him and I fuck around, like so I'm like, all right, so I walk out of the room, then this girl who, she has the same name as me, my full name is Christian, and her full name is Christian, and I always thought, like, when I was in kindergarten, she got to be Christian because she was a girl, and her mom was like, well, she should be Christian, he should be Christian, and like, and I always remembered that. And then I was like, so she comes walking down the hallway, and I'm like, shit, she'll tell.
Right.
Like, she's the kind of girl that would tell on you. So I noticed that and got all panicked because I was trying to bring this shit back to the classroom and put it on the desk for the dude.
Right.
So I just freaked out and then just flung it, and then shit just went all over the lockers. There's just like a smear of shit.
Oh my god!
Like all over the locker. And then when that happened, like a chunk of the shit went onto my shoe, and like it went onto my shoe, and then I was like, I had the cup and I saw her, so I opened the girls' bathroom and threw the shitty mug into the girls' bathroom. So there's like shit there, and there's shit on my shoe, and I'm like, fuck, and you could smell it, like terrible.
You have all the evidence on you. Yeah, there's no way of denying it.
So I go over to the water fountain and I'm like rinsing the shoe off, trying to get the shit off of it, and as that happens, this teacher like walks out and notices the shit on the locker, but didn't notice me, but like was like, what the gets the phone and is like, hello, yes, appears someone defecated on the lockers in the B wing. And I remember at the time I'm like, defecated? What the hell is that?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I knew poop
like that's
and
what sticks
shit,
out to you.
know?
Yeah,
like,
defecated.
That's all I knew.
I'm not gay.
yeah, exactly. So I remember coming back like, what the hell? And then I go into the classroom and Bam's like, well, where's the cup? And I was like, oh, dude. Like, I just.
Did he think you pussied out at first and he didn't believe you?
I think he thought that.
Yeah.
And then I showed him like this shit that was on the shoe, and he's like, what the hell? Like, I was like trying to get him to smell it. And then we're laughing so bad, and the teacher's like, what's so, Margera, Raab, what's so funny? And like, we're like, oh, nothing. And in that hallway, they would let the kids out a little bit early because it was like kind of disconnected from the school. So they get out a little early to be able to make it to the next class. And they start letting kids out. And our teacher kept us. So the kids are all in the hallway and they're like, oh my God, it's shit. You know, and you can hear it and you're like, and we're like dying. And he's like, what's so funny? We're like, no, nothing. And then we walk out and I remember that the principal comes up and is like, there's feces all over the line. And I'm like, I'm hearing.
You're learning all these new words
for shit. And it was like, what the hell is that?
Is that the first time you learned in school? You think?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
it was like my vocabulary doubled that day.
Yeah,
but yeah. So then go out and Bam's like pointing at the shit, pointing at the principal, laughing so bad, and I'm just trying to kind of like
keep a straight face.
Yeah, and just go and. I eventually I ditched the next class because the rumor just started spreading that it was me, and then everybody knew. And so I hid out in the parking lot. My buddy picked me up. We left. Next morning, the school calls my house, and my mom answered, and they were like, we have reason to believe that your son, defecated on the lockers, and she was like. And she asked me, and I was like, yeah, I did it. And she's like, Christian, you're an animal, like, and I was like, and then she admitted like, yeah, he did it. And then, so I had to go in and get arrested. Like,
Jesus.
So they brought me in like,
how old are you at this point?
15.
Okay. Damn.
And they put all these crazy charges. It's like vandalism, destruction of private property, all these, like, you get all these like charges on you. And like, I was underage, so you get it.
But you learned what defecate meant. You learned what feces meant.
Totally worth it.
Overall win, right?
Yeah, totally worth it. So then I got kicked out. Obviously, got expelled from the Westchester area school district, and I couldn't get back into school for the rest of that year. And then I ended up going to a boarding school the next year. And it turned out to be kind of the best thing ever. I always joke, like, I went there and everyone's like, oh, and it really straightened you out. I was like, no, there's just way worse kids.
Yeah.
So I always said, I'm always like a bit like mischievous. Like, I like that guy, but I never was like really trying to hurt anybody or do anything like that.
Yeah.
And and there was just way worse kids that like came from situations that were way more difficult than mine. So
did you try to pull anything at the boarding school, or did you kind of learn pretty quick not to fuck around and find out?
Well, I didn't really mess around too bad, but like I said, I didn't change too much.
Okay.
They just saw what I was doing there as more like, it's just
who gives a shit?
Like,
yeah,
it's just whatever. Like,
this was next level.
Good heart. He's cool. He's just trying to do his grades, and like, and I learned a lot there because it was like the teacher to student ratio was way less. So what happened was, like, if I was fucking around, the teacher would just take a minute and be like, hey, Raab, like, what's going on, dude?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I don't feel like being here. And he's like, what do you want to do? Like, can I go to the art room? And he's like, yep, go for it.
Damn.
So like, instead of being like, go to the office, expel or external suspension, internal suspension, all that shit. Like, they would just realize, like, oh, he's just kind of got ants in his pants today. Fuck it, go down there and do that, and then the next day it's fine, So, so it was a totally different approach to kids, and I always think that, like, as an older person now and having having a child, like, it's such a cooler approach when they just realize, like, oh, it's a kid being a kid.
Yeah.
Rather than like, oh, there's something so wrong.
Mm-hmm.
What is that, Chris Rock, where he's like, that tiger went tiger.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, a kid is going to fuck around. It's hard to sit in a seat for an hour straight or 2 hours or whatever, and then go to the next one and sit for another hour, like all fucking day long. Like,
well, now they just drug them up. Now it's just you got ADHD and they just pump you full of drugs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And instead of being like, hey, he wants to go to the wood shop and fucking make something, or he wants to go to art and mess around with that, or like, you know, and even when you think about what you guys do, like, is there a comedy class? Is there a fucking class where you can go do stand up or go watch all your favorites? Like, no, but what if there was? Like, what if there is something, you know? And I will say, in all honesty, I did learn that the school had shifted so much, because I go back to that boarding school, but I also, the irony of it is, like, years ago, I was asked to go back for career day at the school I got kicked out of.
Oh, really?
So it was rad, because they were like, oh, he had some success, you know, with the shows and stuff, and then going on to do camera work and all that. I was able to go in, and they had a video production class, which they never had before, which was rad. Like, you know, you're like, damn, okay, school is shifting. They are kind of leaning more towards that and seeing that it's not just some throwaway, like, you know, when we were younger, it was like, oh, you could never do that. Yeah. Like, that's a hobby. And, like, I've made a career of it. And now they recognize, like, you totally can, you know?
Yeah.
And same thing, like, with comedy stuff. You can do all this really cool stuff. So it's rad to see that they are shifting and recognizing. Yeah. You know?
I want to stay on the shit topic here for a minute, believe it or not.
Absolutely.
So in the so there's an very early Jackass stunt where Ryan Dunn is swimming in a pool full of shit, and I heard that was originally your idea.
Yeah.
And you were pitched. You were like, I'll do it, but then he ended up doing it.
No, right, I didn't think I'd ever do it. I said it.
Oh, okay.
I was like, oh, dude, what if I swam in the shit?
Yeah, it was more of a hypothetical.
And Bam was like, would you do that? I was like, oh, no. I don't think so. Like, you know, like,
you're like, no,
as
really.
I thought it through, I was like, no, I don't want, like, shit in my dick hole, you know? Like, I don't, like, it was just, like, no, I don't want to do that. And then Ryan's like, I'll fucking do it.
Yeah.
And then, like, Ryan was always the dude, and that's, I think, why that nickname Random Hero just came for, like, stuck on him, because he'll just do it. Like, he had a ton of funny-ass ideas himself. Such a funny fucking dude. But he would have funny ideas himself, and he'd get. And the way that kind of worked back then is like you just threw ideas out, and sometimes they would land on other people, and sometimes they land on you if they made sense. And like somebody would have an idea, they'd throw your way, and you'd have an idea that would throw their way, and that one just happened. He was like, "I'll do it."
Yeah.
And then he jumped on it and did it, and one of the most memorable things.
Yeah.
That snorkel.
It's crazy. And it's even crazier. I think somebody said that, like, in that thing, like, probably like feet underneath them with these big churning metal things. It was super dangerous.
Fucked. And that was a part of why I was scared of it too. Was like, dude, I'm not getting like sucked into the fucking shit tank, because Bam and Jess lived across, and Abe and Phil, but they lived across from that shit plant growing up the whole time, So you'd go over there in like July, August, and there's just hot shit smell everywhere, and so you were just so aware of the shit plant, but you could see those like turbine things like moving the shit and like making it into like shit water, and it always had been like. You're just aware of that forever. I went over there since I was 6, so like, and then looking at that, I was like, no way, you're gonna get chopped up and shit, And
do you have any regret? Like, man, I should have done that, or
no, absolutely not. No. Rye's the guy that that kind of saves the day with all that, and he's so fucking funny that like it makes more sense. I think as life has revealed itself, like I could be funny and do some things, but like a little bit more shyer from the camera, I think, than some of the others, So and that's kind of how it sort of played out, and so it made more sense that he would step up and do the Steve-O thing and stick the car up his ass.
Dude, I heard that was originally not going to be him, and then he
Steve-O,
stood up and did it.
Yeah, it was originally Steve-O.
It's crazy. And now people, I mean, it's the people they I've seen on his gravestone, they put toy cars as kind of a...
Yeah, no, it's good. It's funny like how much of a impact and a mark that he left, just making you laugh so bad. And I feel so psyched, with Rye that he was my friend long before CKY stuff was known, long before Jackass, all that, and got to have so many funny memories and awesome memories with him. He's like my brother. So, and he was actually friends with my brother first, and that's how I met him, and how we became close, and my brother's close with him and all that. So like, it's just rad that I got to have all those kind of cool experiences that were not on camera and all, and just got to spend all that time with him. Just really funny, good dude.
That's sick, man. Yeah. And I know you're doing like a lot of work behind the camera now. Jackass 4, you were behind the camera, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, here's my question: Was there any moment when you're behind the camera, Jackass 4, and you're seeing all this crazy shit happen? Did you get an itch or anything to be like, man, like I kind of wish I was like I was doing one of these stunts or something?
Dude, no, the funniest moment was I'm real good buds with Rick Kosick, and I hang out with him a ton. Like I lived out in LA for a long time and then moved back here a few years ago, but Rick was one of my like almost everyday hang dudes. Like we hang out with him all the time. So Rick is, the original camera dude, him and Lance, and Dimitri, and original camera guys for Jackass. And so when I was talking to Tremaine about coming on and helping with camera stuff for the newest one, talking to Rick and all this, and just kind of picking his brain a little bit about what's going on, and him and Meech and Lance, and just picking their brain about where to be, what spots, and like how to kind of capture stuff, and because it's all kind of happening at you, and you got to try to think about where you need to be to get the right shot. And
because it's not like they can. I mean, some of those things, it's not like you're getting a second take.
Yeah, no, you're not. Yeah, you either. If you missed it, then that's not cool. But there's enough coverage that they'll get something. But like, so one of the things is like they were doing a screen test because like Spike and Jeff and Knoxville all wanted to do like a screen test before they committed to doing the fourth one, because everybody was older, and it was like this thought of, and
you had the newer cast and everything.
Yeah, newer cast, and guys were getting older, and it was like, is this gonna look right on camera? Like, is this gonna look like kind of in the first one when everybody's like in old guy suits? Like, is it gonna look like that for real now?
Right. Yeah.
And so they rented out this area, this like house and this whole property thing to do the tests. And I got on as camera, and we were going to film the bit that was like the musical chairs with the like airbags that were exploding, and it was hilarious because Knoxville was like had the controls, and Dave England and Wee Man and I forget who else, because I was on England, and I think Rick was on Wee Man, but we were like sitting there filming, and they're going around in the circles, and Knoxville kept messing with them and not like hitting it. Yeah. So it was throwing them off because they were like bracing themselves to get hit, and then they wouldn't explode the thing. So then finally, when it goes, instead of hitting one of them, he like hit them all. Yeah. And then like Jason, Wee Man, gets blasted, goes flying into the thing. But I was on Dave England, and dude, he like his didn't really make the cut because Wee Man's was so gnarly that he flipped up and landed on the tank, and it was like the way better story to follow. But Dave England, like, he sat down like as if it wasn't gonna happen because Knoxville kept messing with it so bad.
Yeah, so he sat down confidently,
so like relaxed that it whipped the shit out of him, and he got like the worst whiplash. But his head like flips back and just like totally like wrenched him so bad, and it was awful. And then you see Wee Man flip into the tank, and then Kosick just goes to the side and goes to me, and I'm looking, and he goes, yeah, dude, aren't you so psyched you're behind the camera? And I was like, this is so much fucking more rad, you know? So like, it was just so much better off because I didn't have to get whiplash and have to get thrown into a tank or do any of that. So it was way better. So like, to answer that, it's like, no, dude, it actually made me psyched that I was where I was at, because I was a part of all the action, got to see it, got to laugh at it, got to, kind of experience all of it and have the laughs with everybody, but didn't have to get hurt, didn't have to do any of that. So it was really funny to kind of be that. And I think in the movie at the end, it was like Lance called me or something. They were like, yo, they put you in there for a little, like, just as like on the camera or something, because they were doing the bungee wedgie thing that was like with Zach and Preston and Wee Man, and then they were kind of like paying homage to the original bungee wedgie thing in the first movie, and it was just so cool because Knoxville came running over and he's like, "Here's a guy," and it was just like, yeah, dude, it was rad. It was rad to be a part because they've become a family over all the years, and like you had so many laughs together and so many fun times and all that shit. So like it was just rad to be a part of that last kind of installment. Whatever you want to call it. And I was just happy to be a part of it, in doing the camera stuff. And when you're behind the camera, do you feel 100% safe when you're on the production crew, or is there still that fear where you're like, somebody's gonna fuck with me? Yeah, not 100% safe at all. First of all, I mean, you always walk around covering your balls because you know you're getting hit. But it was so funny because like I'll see Knoxville from time to time, and there was a point like where I didn't do the second and third movie, and I was like going through drug shit, got sober and whatever, and like I always laugh because like I had this Facebook that I put as Christian Raab, my full name, so that whoever I could just keep it private and it would just be people I knew, and I think he saw it and then he didn't know like could I call him Raab, like what the heck? Like he's like, did he find Jesus? Is he weird? Like, you have your Christian name. Yeah. And all that shit, like, because I had gotten sober and all that. So I think he just didn't know how to play it. And so always a little bit like tiptoeing around it. But then when I got on set to film that, it was like I went to the bathroom and I was coming out of the bathroom and he had the fucking ball thing set up. So it whizzed right past me, like just fucking missed my head. And he was like, yo, is that cool? Like, is it? And I was like, yeah, dude, you can fuck with me. Like, and he's like, all right, I didn't know. He's like, I didn't know. And he was like, running up and laughing. Like, dude, I didn't know if I could still fuck with you like that. Like, I was like, absolutely, man. I think people, like I said, they didn't know how to handle it. Like when I had gotten sober and all that, it's like, where's he at? And it was like, no, I'm still the fucking maniac. Still, like that person is always good. I'm always gonna be that person. Like that, I'm always gonna think shit jokes are funny. I'm always gonna like, and I realized that through getting sober. Like, no, it didn't make me some like Poindexter fucking person that like uptight and all that. It actually allowed me to kind of get back to who I am and like the mischievous, funny shit that I always loved. And drugs and alcohol weren't like keeping me down like that point. So it was cool. It was cool to be back around it. And then they would fuck with you the whole time. Was there a moment where they got you good when you were on set, or? I mean, just that one was like I think the closest. And then just the ball taps and this, and then just trying to like get you to walk in and shit. But like the thing is like right away, when you're on that set, you're at you're on guard level. Like you're like hyper vigilant or whatever. Like you could sense all the shit. And then the difference too, because of being camera, I had to know what was going on. Yeah. So you had to know like, damn, they're gonna get Aaron right now, or they're gonna get Steve-O right now. Yeah. And this is happening, and you know it, and you're like, just trying to pretend to eat your burger with them, like, yeah, what's up, man? Yeah, and you're like, that it's happening. It's gonna happen, yeah. And so you're way more in the know. Whereas before, when you're like doing the cast stuff, you just kind of are wandering into shit and not knowing. And yeah, of course you're thinking, but just when you let your guard down is when they get you the best. Yeah. And so this time around, it was kind of funny to see it from that side. Dude, one of the funniest moments is when they were all doing the COVID screening, right? And they're all getting like and then the fucking bouncy house inflates. That was fucking hilarious. Hell yeah. That and one of me and Jim's favorites is Poopies when he's on the ladder. And he goes, I'm Poopies and I'll show me, and he fucking swings the hammer and knocks himself down. How Poopies is fucking hilarious. I love that dude. He's amazing. He's good people. How fucking impressed were you with Zach Ass? How fucking... Oh, dude. Isn't he the greatest? Dude, he's amazing. And the funny thing is, I was a camera dude for his show. Too Stupid to Die on MTV.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
So prior to him coming to Jackass,
Seamless. It was a seamless transition.
Yeah. I mean, obviously,
he's a legend.
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching Jackass like for years before he did anything. Just fucking taking a work boot off his forehead covered in thumbtacks.
Oh yeah.
Just fucking as hard as he could. He's the best.
And that firecracker vest.
That's what fucking put him on the map, right?
That's so gnarly.
He's a fucking awesome dude.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh, he's amazing, dude. So funny and just such a sweetheart too. And yeah, it was cool as fuck because I had a buddy call me out of nowhere and was like, "Yo, can you come?" Because I had just finished up a show, and he was like, "Can you come shoot this show in Indiana?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's like kind of like a Jackass sort of thing or whatever." And he's like, "So we think you'd be good for it." Then I got there, and all the dudes were like, I was standing out on the driveway because I started like a couple days late, and they were like, "What the fuck is that, Raab? Like, what the fuck?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yo," and they were like, "What?"
Yeah.
And they were like, and they were psyched because they were like, "Dude, you're fucking shooting this." So it turned into a really fun thing because all the guys that were on the show
We're just so excited.
They were psyched, and I was psyched that, like, again, to be in a position where I'm not the one breaking my bones, and I'm just like getting to see it or instigate it or like kind of push it to happen. And so whenever I would grab a camera and be like, "Yo, let's go try this thing," they'd be like, "Oh fuck," they'd be psyched to do it. And I'd be psyched to get the footage, and it just made for a perfect combination to be able to be a part of that. And the Too Stupid to Die show was really fucking funny, and that's kind of where I got close to Zach because I was out there, for months shooting that show with him, and then he came out to L.A. and then we stayed in touch and all that, and then and Steve-O was the one really who discovered him,
I saw him. I think the first time. I think Jim's been following him longer than me. But I remember the first time I saw Jackass was on Steve-O's YouTube channel, I think.
Yeah. So he brought him into the mix and just a perfect fit.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
He's the best.
Yeah, super funny, and I'm not on social media as much. I have an account, but I
know I was watching some of your podcasts. You haven't done that in a while, have you?
Yeah, I haven't done that in years. Basically, when my daughter was born, I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna take a minute and do the dad thing, and then I'll get back to it." And then I just never did, and just kind of focused more on being a dad and doing the video stuff, and kind of got caught up doing it. I miss it, but the thing is, we moved back here to be closer to family, with our daughter. So, so that was the thing is that I was out in LA and I just had access to all my buds and really good guests to do the podcast and stuff. And so it just kind of got hard. It was like a combination. My daughter was born 3 months before COVID. So when COVID hit, being a dad and doing that, it just it kind of was the perfect excuse to stop doing it. And I, in the beginning was very I don't know about doing a call-in podcast because to me, just sitting here with you guys now, I'd rather be with the energy in the room.
Yeah.
Feel what it's like just sitting with you, chatting with you and connecting with you like that. And that's kind of how I felt with the podcast was I want to be able to sit in the room with whoever's going to be the guest and be able to just connect like that. And then you start to realize a lot of people were doing it on the Zoom thing or whatever, and it works, either way. But it just kind of just drifted away, and then I ended up kind of getting away from it. I do miss it at times because it's super fun to just sit with people. I always said, if you were friends with someone for 20 years and then you sat down and talked with them for an hour, you're somehow I know you way better than I ever knew you.
Dude, we've got
all these years.
We've been doing this podcast. I mean, we're on episode 100 or something. There's times where we'll sit down because we have guests occasionally, but more so it's just us. We have a different recording area in our basement where it's a much more closer, intimate space. Yeah. And there's moments where we'll say something and I'll be like, I had no idea. Hundreds of hours of talking to each other, literally hundreds of hours, not including on the road or in hotels or whatever, but just he'll tell a story and I'm like, is that funny? Did you make that up? He's like, no, it happened. It's crazy. You learn so much about each other even after so long. Yeah. So it is fun to do. Yeah, I always kind of thought about threatening to do it again, but just at this point, it's sort of that labor of love thing where you kind of gotta
dedicate the time to making it happen. And right now, just the way I'm doing my company and things are kind of getting busy and stuff, it's hard to think about doing that.
Yeah, no,
always also threatened to make stuff with Brandon DiCamillo a bunch. Like we talk about stuff and like, should we film something? Should we do this? And we talk about making things like happen. And you never know. It's funny. Like I think when you're younger, it's so much easier to just like you don't have responsibilities, right?
Yeah.
So like nowadays, I don't know about you guys, but like you're like, hey, let's get together with friends, and you're like somehow a year went by. And I haven't seen you, like, and it's just wild because you just, you get busy with life and it makes it hard. Like, but when you're young, I think that's why the CKY stuff happened so much because it was like, we just were available, you're like, you're around each other, you're hanging out all the time. There's a camera there. Let's film something. Let's do it. And like, what's the worst? You're going to skip like some job you had at Arby's or whatever, like, it's like, who cares, like, but now you're like, you got commitments, you got things, and it's so it makes it tougher. But yeah, that when you say passion stuff, that's another project. Like Brandon and I have talked about filming stuff for a while, and I would love to do that with him. He's a guy that that him and I, like, I think just on camera it was always like a good like a mix. I just always felt awesome, like whenever we're doing scenes and stuff together or whatever, doing
good
that.
chemistry.
Like it's super easy. Like the thing that was always hard, I think, is because he's so goddamn funny that like you have to try to not listen, but also be able to listen so that you can react right or whatever's happening, but like try not to listen too bad because then you'll laugh and ruin it.
Right.
And so it was always a challenge like that, but just so many good ideas. I mean, his brain just works different. Than
Dude, I think if you guys got together, people would be psyched. Obviously.
Yeah.
I was just talking to my buddy, my buddy Mike Nadasic. Shout out to him. I brought him on the road with me recently to do a show because Jim couldn't come. And I told him you were going to be on the podcast, and he was so excited. And then he also brought him up too, so he was like,
"Oh, that's rad."
Yeah.
Yeah. Now Brandon, like, so I still like hang with him. And we're both like family guys at this point, so like we're just more focused on kids and those kind of things at this point. But dude, still the funniest fucking dude in the world. Like like each time you go over there, I always say like it's hilarious because he'll have some little video or some little thing that he made and whatever. I'm like, what are you gonna do with that? And he's like, nothing. This is just for me, man. Rabbie, this is fucking hilarious.
That's fucking awesome.
And like he just makes funny shit all the time.
He's probably got archives of shit that people would go nuts over.
He does, and just kind of just always working on something creative, always doing something funny, and it's just I guess you guys know that as comedians and stuff, but like if once you're funny, you're always funny. You don't lose that. Like I think it evolves in some ways. I think. My best example would be Eddie Murphy, like, the arguably Delirious and Raw are two of the greatest, specials ever. And then as time went and he was like, became a dad and he's doing more of that like family comedy, people would be like, people might have been like, oh, he's not as funny as he was with this. And it's like, nah, dude, he's fucking funnier. Yeah. It like, just because that movie was geared towards kids or whatever, that's not hit. That's like that's one tiny part of what he is and how funny that dude is. But like you could see it so quickly in these little like bits if he's on SNL or if he's like sitting at Jerry in Seinfeld's Comedians in Cars. Like there's this thing where you're like, oh, that dude is fucking hilarious. You know that it's forever. Like and that's kind of like what you see with any of those people. Like when they're funny, they're funny. And that's how Brandon is, like, not comparing him to Eddie Murphy, but just saying, like, in terms of, like, he's just
he'll always be
been
funny,
a hilarious dude, and every time we hang out, it's still just cracking you up.
Well, that's sick, dude. We're already at an hour. Are you cool to hang out for the Patreon? Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, sweet. Yeah.
Well, what's that mean?
Oh,
like,
we're just gonna
people call in or something.
Oh no, the Patreon is just it's our subscription service.
Yeah.
Or it's like, so like this is gonna go out on Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, all that stuff. We do like a part 2 where we just basically continue talking, same shit. Yeah. But then people, if they pay our subscription, which by the way, only $2 a month, they can listen to part 2 of the episode.
This
you cool
is
with
when
that?
the real shit happens.
Yeah, that's when we're gonna get deep
we're all
into it.
naked and start shitting on things.
Oh, dude, a fucking fan just sent us a dildo in our PO box. So
perfect.
So you can do with that as you please.
Yeah. All right.
All right. We want to thank our top tier supporters real quick: Simon, Tits McGee, Miles Schultz, Andrew Herbert, and Tim Sislow. Yeah. So you're not. I was gonna say, are you all active? You're not active on socials really that much anymore.
Sorry, I was taking a sip there. No, not really. Like once in a while, I'll download it and then look at it. And I think I'll be honest, like not to get into this space because this is exactly what I don't do social media for. It just gets too much about political shit.
Oh yeah,
and I can't stand it. And like I guess, for me, it's just so divisive and all this stuff. It's like, dude, I just want to laugh. Like there's too much of that heavy shit and. When somebody's just like, this impersonator, like the left people, the right people, I'm like, oh God, like, no thanks. I don't subscribe to any of it. I'd rather just like see a comedian's bit and that's why I do that. That's the reason you get into it. Memes are hilarious. All this kind of stuff is awesome. And then we see clips from you guys or Casey or other, it's like, oh, this is hilarious. But then somehow it gets sprinkled in with all other bullshit. So I just kind of take a break for time to time, and then
gotcha.
And then it's once in a while I'll get back on there and mess around, and then I'll be like, all right, erase this thing again.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I've in a sense, however corny it is, like it's mental health wise, like I'm just better off. I don't watch the news. I don't pay attention to any of that crap.
Yeah.
And everybody, if there's something you really need to know, you'll figure it out. Somebody will tell you. And I've found that I'm just happier, like happier like that because then, what's cool too? Like if you guys went on tour with Casey, I haven't seen you since then. If I watched your Facebook or your Instagram thing the whole time, I would know everything you fucking did.
Yeah, well, that's a tough balance we try to do is we try to keep it fresh. If we do post something, a lot of comedians call it burning content. So if you post it, somebody comes and see it, you want to keep it fresh. But,
well, and I mean that for your act, but also I mean it just like you went to Burger King today. I don't need to ask you about Burger King because I already saw you fucking did it. And you got the onion rings or whatever. I'd rather just bump into you and be like, I don't know what the fuck you've been up to. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
you nailed it. That is where Rob hangs out.
Yeah.
I got a collection of the crowns. So. Well, yeah, man, it was great having you on. We're excited to bring you over to the Patreon. And, if you ever do bring your podcast back, I know there's plenty of people who want to hear more from you.
Oh, hell yeah. Cool.
Yeah, man. Thanks, dude. We appreciate you. Sweet. We're going to take it over to Patreon. We love you guys. Stink it forward. Raab Himself. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, guys.